about Anglophone problems and other political matters happening in this country as of now. Let's move in.
Yes.
Good to see you. Yes. Yes, sir. The camera is going on. I brought my little lady to do the camera work. So you could be closer to him. My question is not as important as his sound. Please, you'll be more tolerant because she might come closer for the quality of the sound. So, Barrister, we start from the beginning. Answer this. Is there any legal instrument defining reunification between Southern Cameroons and La République?
The answer to that question must be in the negative. Now, this presupposes that before the act of unification, reunification, whatever you call it, the parties had come to a contractual relationship defining the terms of the union. There is no such document. However, after unification or reunification, a series of legislations have been passed, decrees. For instance, the decree extending the law, the constitution of East Cameroon to West Cameroon with a few modifications. This was a unilateral law, a unilateral decision made by one party, the party of East Cameroon, to extend its influence over to Southern Cameroons. The answer to that is that there is no document, there is no law.
Dr. Susungi, one also great minds in the Anglophone community, says that before foreseeing the plebiscite and reunification, Foncha and Joa also, Foncha went to Yaounde and they signed a document with Ahidjo and the former Prime Minister, called him Asale, and that could stand for that instrument.
Dr. Susungi is a very, very good friend of mine. When I led the SNC delegation to the United Nations, he kindly hosted us in his apartment in London. At the time, I'm sure he believed that there was no such document. If, however, since 1995 he has discovered one, then perhaps it exists. But to the best of my knowledge, there was no such document.
And let your mind flirt a little bit. What could have motivated a man who is your friend, as you call him, who was thinking in one way, suddenly do a flip-flop?
I would not want to know what may have caused him to flip-flop. There is a saying in law that a man's mind is as good as his digestion. We cannot tell what made him change his mind. You see, in this struggle for unification, people have taken different angles. Some for personal reasons, some because of conviction, some because they have joined a political party and they see their growth, the fulfillment of their objectives in belonging to a nation of Cameroon. But I'm convinced, and I'm yet to be proved wrong, that there is no document that can be called a binding treaty between two separate entities saying that the terms of unification would be this.
And as from that conclusion, you are an Anglophone in Cameroon, and then the president is coming here to celebrate the 50th anniversary of that unification after living through it for 50 years. What would you advise as the attitude of the average Anglophone sufferer
in this arrangement?
I have proposed in the number of interviews I have given that it's a good thing that President Biya is thinking of reunification. This is a time to get him to appreciate the fact that there was no binding document created. Perhaps this is the time to sit down on the table and say, hey, what should be the proper terms of reunification? Actually, what took place, as I have earlier said, is that Ahidjo and his parliament extended the constitution of La République to cover West Cameroon, and that was it. There was a constitution in West Cameroon which had certain stipulations about how the federation was in no way going to be touched, but all these were abridged in 1972. So my plea would be that we get to meet President Biya and say, Mr. President, history cannot be forgotten, and that if we try to build a country on the flimsy thought that there was reunification, we are making a mistake, because tomorrow posterity will judge us and the country may fracture into bits because there is really no binding document.
And then on that idea of posterity, we see barons of parties and the leadership of this country, octogenarians, not wanting to go away. We can get to SDF and see Ni John Frundi, 70 years and above, still waxing strong and still wanting to stay on strong again. And then so for CPDM with President Biya sticking on and holding on. And Joya, those names that we have heard over and over in this republic, like there was no need for generational shift in this country. I heard you saying it is proper to have generational change. As a Cameroonian, what would you advise in a young nation like this, with people, young people, not having a clear vision as to where we are heading?
That is an extremely good question and a very, very important question. There is no guarantee that a generational shift will necessarily put us on the correct track. If the leaders of the SDF feel strong enough to continue, if the leaders of the CPDM feel that the nation still needs them, perhaps they can continue. But there is a line I'd like to take from Tennyson: no good thing lasts forever. It is correct that after a term, one appreciates that he may have outlived his usefulness and let some other people take over and continue the struggle towards helping our country become an emerging country.
As a great legal mind of Cameroon, we cannot leave this interview without touching on one issue that Cameroonians almost on a daily basis are cogitating or at least voicing their concern about. This Marafa Inoni matter. What is your reading? If we may just share yours.
You know, this is a very sensitive subject. A matter which is sub judice, that is under the law, investigated by the law. Perhaps it is best to leave it to the law to take its course. But there's absolutely something troubling that high officials of the state, people who have held high office, touched government secrets and know how the country has been running, should be brought down and humiliated in the way these people have been. I know and I admit that there is and there should be equality before the law. However, I think that before actually bringing them down to this level, there should have been certainty that the crimes are being charged of, they committed them. And perhaps there should also have been a state security court where people who have handled government secrets can be tried and convicted if they have committed crimes or set free. But the summary way, people who have held high office have been brought to account for the deeds they are alleged to have committed is, in my mind, somewhat unfortunate, because it shows that even those who are there, yes, they have a duty to be accountable, but who knows, tomorrow a new president may come and he may want to try them. So I think a precedent that is not too comfortable and that does not call for continuity and stability in the institutions of our government has been established. And I feel uncomfortable about the procedure.
I could see that feeling being someone with a common law habeas corpus background.
Thank you. Yes, if habeas corpus, which is part of our law, it's supposed to be in our constitution, if these people are held illegally, applications can be made for them, their bodies to be reproduced and then set free. But, you know, even though the idea of habeas corpus has recently been introduced and made national, not all of us in the country are aware and appreciate its significance. Moreover, in these particular trials, there is the element that the people who have been arrested and detained have committed crimes or are answerable to crimes they may have committed. And my understanding of it now is that they are being interrogated and perhaps they are being quarantined for their own good. And I can see that an application for habeas corpus may not be the appropriate remedy at this time because they are being investigated.
And then Marafa releases a letter with a sitting minister under heavy charges and accusation.
Yes, I have read those letters. But you see, these are accusations and counter-accusations. One would have liked to know, why is it that those letters are coming out only now? When he was minister, perhaps the release of those letters would have been more credible. I'm not saying that what he has written is not credible, but you see, it's marks of trying to look for a defense because certain things have happened. One would have hoped that this documentation he has produced would have been produced. For now, I remember Minister Herman Gaga. He did present a document that he had found fraud in about 56 cases, and he left the government. But this is not exactly the case we have now with the Honorable Minister of, ex-Minister of Territorial Administration and Decentralization. But it all just goes to show the unfortunate system we are in.
Thank you very much.